So, because it is streamed, and maybe some people may not have connected before, or be so well aware of the different entities involved in the space economy and space ecosystem, I think it is needed to have a really, really brief introduction of you, Anas. You are the person in the entity you are involved in.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me here. Normally, in this seat, there should have been my head of unit, who unfortunately had to go on a mission. So I'm Anas Hanan. I'm the deputy head of unit, the unit in charge of space economy within DG DEFIS. The mandate of this unit is to support the development of the space economy in the sense of all commercialization activities, access to finance, support to the emergence of an ecosystem of SMEs, be it in upstreams or downstreams activities, and to make sure that there are no structural limits to the development of these activities, be it in Earth observation, but also in navigation, in SATCOM, and in the upstream sector.
Thank you. Mark, today, again, you are on stage, second time today. Now as a ERSC chairman, so representing the association. And so, because I think it's maybe useful for people who attend online and maybe are less knowledgeable as well about the European landscape, because as we had before session on internationalization, we know that we have a lot of attendees online out of the EU. Could you please give us, Mark, an update on the current situation of the Earth observation industry? What are the key numbers and potential trends and challenges? Set the scene.
Yes, so good afternoon for the third time of today. Yes, some key figures. Downstream industry in Europe is about 810 or 11 companies, gathering about 16,000 employees, representing about 2.45 billion euro of revenues, and with a growth rate of about 9%, in average over 5 years, 9% of growth. So that means that, yeah, downstream industry is a significant sector, which is growing since decades now, and with a continuous growth. But there are some buts. What we see today, and more precisely in the 2 or 3 last years, is that this growth is not equally shared among the different members, and more specifically the SMEs, the small and medium enterprise in this sector, which, by the way, are the biggest part. More than 90% of the companies are SMEs in this sector. These SMEs are suffering indeed, and yes, I think it's the 3rd year where the revenue level is decreasing. So, which means that we have a matter of concern here to be discussed with the institutional stakeholders in order to invest, to react on that. Another figure which for us is also important is the typology of the customers or end users for this industry. So globally we have about more than 50% in the public domain who are indeed key customer for us. But if you look at the structure of these public customers, we see that about 40% of them are constituted by national or European users, whilst the the regional and local authority represent only 13%, which is a challenge also for us because we know, and more specifically in the frame of the adaptation to the climate change and environmental matters, we know that these local institutions are key because they have indeed the responsibility to act and to implement projects for that. So here again, I think that we have a common action to be triggered, we think, in order to react against that or to improve indeed the statute on that.
Thank you, Mark. And the numbers that you share with us come from the industry surveys that we made. So it means that unpublished in 2025, so based on the numbers from the industry in 2024. In 2025, so at the same time as we were working on this industry survey, the European Commission published the vision for the European space economy. So an important document that we were waiting for. Can you give us the key element of this vision, please?
Yes, well, the vision is a communication, it's not a regulation, it's a way for the Commission to announce a certain number of strategic intentions over time. It's a very holistic view of everything that needs to be done in space economy. I will pass quite quickly on some activities that are essentials, that are enablers, as the creation for the single market for space, the industrial readiness in particular for in some specific areas for the upstream and for the access. But the key things I would like to share here and focus, if you allow me, will be the fact that it recognizes the potential for growth that exists in the industry. And quite interestingly in the downstream sector, because if you see globally, I think that the whole space economy has grown in Europe at an average of 3, sometimes 4% over the past years. Whereas I think that for the downstream in Earth observation, we've never been below 7 over the past 10 years. So it's growing faster because, of course, you are much more exposed to a lot of verticals that do not necessarily depend only on infrastructure. There's a whole building block, the building block 4 in this vision on boosting commercialization. By boosting commercialization, it's, I would say, a chapeau for several activities that goes from, of course, making sure that you have access to all the verticals that could use your products, but also access to financing, which is something that will gradually, even in very downstream activities that for quite a long time were not that capex intensive and for the past years became quite capex intensive. And this is happening at a moment where what we observe is that from the banks and the traditional financiers of your industry, we are observing a drying out of certain mechanisms to finance. So a lot of companies, it's the case for Earth observation, it's the case for the downstream of navigation and timing services, working capital requirements or besoin de fonds de roulement are becoming a challenge for a lot of SMEs and even for mid-caps. So the access to finance will be an important point to make sure that parallel to the matchmakings that we have with potential customers, we increase what has been initiated in Cassini, I would say in a, I don't want to say an artisanal way, this is in the unit I'm working for, but we did that with means that were basically relying on the Copernicus financings, and we need to go to a larger scale in order to ensure that there is a systematic matchmaking between other type of asset allocators and investors and our industry, for them to understand what we do, that there is several business cases, some very profitable business cases in terms of potential, and in terms of the fact that there is a long-term perspective. This is not a fad that will disappear in a year or two. Earth observation is becoming really critical. Then in commercialization, the other point will be trying to break the barriers. We have a term in the communication that sometimes is misinterpreted of anchor tenancy. Anchor tenancy for downstream markets is not necessarily that the union or the commission will buy, or agencies of the union will buy services they don't need. But it means that we need to make sure that everybody, be it within the commission, within agencies, or even at national and regional level, understand the products that you do. And in a lot of organizations, you don't have experts, not even in GIS, not in Earth observation, not in sensing, people that have problems that can be solved with products that you've already developed. So we think there could be missed opportunities that we can solve. And this is one of the activities where we need to create those bridges or open new verticals beyond the classical ones that have been exploited in the past, I would say in the past decade. There are new verticals that we need to see. I can mention energy. Energy is not necessarily the first vertical we think about when we think first about agriculture, forestry, land management, even ocean, etc. But other policy areas where the union is either has an exclusive competence or a shared competence. Then there is a topic, but it was already mentioned by in the previous folder. There's a whole part of the vision that structures the objective of economic diplomacy, and this is something that is important. Skills, not only skills in your industry, but skills in your customers' industry, that people are able to understand and consume, so to speak, products that space and downstream space produces. These are basically the pillars of the vision, well, slightly customized, I would say, in a neo perspective.
Thank you. A lot of different points there. The first one I would like to tackle is about the market and market access. Companies do not want to have grants, but they really would like to have contracts. It's important for them to have access to market. How do you see potential implementation on the policy side? How the policy can support, in fact, and create this to market? What are the activities that DEFIS intend to do in order to support this in the different sectors?
I would not, if you allow me, spend a lot of time on the upstream and the sensing, the pure sensing part, where we have today, we have a tool that are the contributing missions that my colleagues of the Copernicus program are managing, where we can extend it, where together with colleagues from ESA, there are activities on that. But if we go beyond what can be done there, the rest is how can I find today, at least in the public service and maybe in adjacent verticals, how can we make sure that people know what you can do? One of the activities that the commercialization team is doing, and let me take 2 seconds to say that this commercialization initiative is not a commission initiative. It's one integrated team with ESA and USPA who, within the Cassini framework, who will launch this activity to systematically investigate for all policies where the union is present, to engage with the stakeholders and to have workshops, first to understand their activities and very quickly to be able to devise together with industry, I don't know yet, is it a catalog, is it a matchmaking mechanism to be sure that we can give them access. One example, in the coming days, I have colleagues that are organizing a workshop with the electricity grid operators, we call the TSOs, to understand their expectations, not only on the raw data, because some of them are using, for example, timing for Galileo, but for 90% of their needs that are expressed today are sensing, Earth observation products, to understand their expectations in terms of expected products, integrity assurances that are needed from the public sector, enablers that are required by them, in particular in the field of, because there's a whole effort done in this vertical on using agentic AI to develop some of their activities, and they say, okay, I can use data, I can use products by the downstream industry. I need an assurance coming from the Commission that the products, and in particular the Copernicus products, will have a certain level of assurance in terms of availability over time. You cannot ask people who invest over investment horizons of 50 years to decide on something where they don't have a reasonable assurance for the availability of products, and what are the frameworks that we can put in place for the industry to ensure this assurance. We did something similar in navigation a long time ago for timing and navigation services for safety of life, where navigation authorities in aviation wanted to have an assurance, have a legal brick that allows them to embed navigation GNSS products in their activities. And maybe I anticipate we will have the same kind of work to do with you, with the industry, to see what are the facilitators. Once we do that, we are able to try to, either through matchmaking, either through product catalogs open to all industry, to give them, to do an evangelization, to explain them what exists, what our industry is able to offer them. Basically, this is the idea.
Thank you. ERSC see a lot of value on the policy, for sure. We dedicate a lot of time, and members are strongly involved in a lot of activities that we are doing through working group or task force, as we call it. Mark, do you want to share some views on this, about what is needed in order to support development of future activity for...
Yes. Oh, indeed, I will... yeah, I fully agree with what you said. I would just insist on 2 points. The first one is the necessity, as you said, to educate the customers. It's clear that in some verticals there are some lack of awareness of what Earth observation can provide, but also a lack of competences for accepting, for considering the quality and of the products and services that we can offer. And here I think that the institutional bodies at large should perhaps play the role in order to help these new potential users or customers to be more aware and to be able to accept, indeed, and to the type of services that we can deliver. I think that's an important element where the different institutions could help industry. And another point I would like to stress out here is the necessity to jump from project-based business to service-based business. Meaning we need more and more to have customers which are used to buy services in a long term, rather than just a project which is with a start and an end, because after the end nothing happens. And I think that's something also on which we should commonly educate, I would say, the customers in order to consider that yes, at the end, the main benefit they can get out of the use of Earth observation is in the continuity of services in order to see the evolution of what we are looking at. And that's something which must be somehow translated in the business models. I think, of course, the projects are useful for developing potentially new products, but at the end, what we are looking for is a recurring business and recurring services, which, by the way, can justify indeed the investment and can also be very well accepted by the new investors in the business, because it's much, much easier to convince investors when you can demonstrate recurring business on a medium and long term rather than just jumping from one project to another one. So that's typically to action. And of course, in this later aspect, the policy is fundamental, because one way of demonstrating the compliance with the policy is to have in a continuity demonstration that these policies are really fulfilled in the long term. So that's just the two main message.
We can see on the screen that we have some views from the different attendees. They mentioned to support the commercialization, Copernicus DPS, extension to services. The DPS has been put in place, and that's a really useful scheme considered by. And what about the extension to the services? Because we mentioned about the new potential extension to users such as the local and regional authorities, which is seen, as mentioned by Mark, as a really important community. Would it be possible to see in the future, in the implementation of the vision, clear activities supporting this in order to fast-track the access to these services?
Yes, and I'm overstepping a little bit on the next thing that we were going to mention, but indeed, in particular, for our national or local or regional potential users, the necessity for a DPS scheme for services would be a great enabler, and we are seriously working on it. It has an impact because it means that the products that we put in a catalog are indeed recurring, standardized products. The problem is that we collectively miseducated the system, because most, and we see it also in the contenders of the ERS prize that of this year, we do sur mesure. We do a lot of high fashion products that we customize for every single of our users, be it in land management, in urban planning, we adapt a lot of solutions. If we want to have a catalog, we will need to have generic, repeatable modules that we can embed in solutions. Things where we start from an empty sheet of paper and we devise a solution with a lot of ad hoc development, a lot of mandates, are difficult to sell in a DPS or in a catalog for people. So the more we will be able, the products that will succeed, I think, in a catalog or in a framework procurement contract that can be used by local, regional, national users, in addition to commission DGs and agencies, will be are the products that are standardized in a way, in a certain manner. Otherwise, in terms of visibility, we will just put on the web the sum of the web pages of each one of the service providers. And this is one challenge that, for the moment, I think we haven't really thought about, and where the dialogue with industry will be important. Because if you're, I don't know, the urban planner of a small commune in the middle of rural France, and you have a problem, you have the intuition that there is somehow somebody who devised, based on EO data, a solution to your problem. If he cannot navigate in a product tree that is legible for him, he will abandon the idea and say, it would be great if we could have this product, and the product is just 2 pages away from him. So we have a lot of effort currently going within this integrated team to try to see how to structure an electronic catalog, to speak like we used to speak in the early 2000s, an electronic catalog that allows local people who manage territorial premises, who by essence are your natural clients, how to create something that allows them to use a solution developed in Greece and that meets perfectly the needs of an Italian commune or district or region. This will be a real challenge for the first point. For the matchmaking, same thing. If we are able to explain to them the categories and services and they are able to navigate them, they will be able to discover that the service already exists somewhere else, and we can use across borders a better the effort that you had, that one of you spent in developing a product can be amortized over customers across the union. But again, we will need to be able to explain this tree structure in a way. Yeah, and this is the first.
Really interesting and promising initiative. Can you shed light a little bit more on the potential scheme that we could see in the next MFF? Do you have a possibility to explain, to share what could be the potential vision of the European Commission to integrate this? It will be a specific dedicated budget for space. Is it something that we could expect?
So beyond what, basically what we will do is what we said we will do. So basically what is in the vision is, in terms of commercialization, being able to develop this anchor tenancy dynamic procurement, or as the vision says, innovative procurement schemes to allow a better matchmaking, but I would say automatic, systematic matchmaking between the offer and local, national, regional stakeholders. This is something that we want to do, so building a catalog, building a marketplace in a way, along with the legal framework of procurement. In terms of expanding the Cassini financing mechanism, today there's a seed, which is for VC, for really startups, to complement it for companies that already exist, which are growth on the scale-up facility, so one for equity, one for debt, because sometimes you don't want necessarily to increase equity, you are not necessarily in a position to be EBITDA diluted, but you need, because you have a project, you need a debt product, something that can finance your working capital requirement until your top line is met. So yes, growth, scale up, both in equity and debt. These are the things where we will push, and the systematic investigation for beyond our usual suspects that are our colleagues in agriculture, our colleagues in international partnerships, our colleagues in oceans and in DG Eco, to try to see if we haven't missed a big chunk somewhere in the back.
Great. Let's have a look at the question, because the time is already almost gone, unfortunately. I see a question here. Have the DG considered that insurance and finance tend to internalize services? Yes, for sure. We see in some report that finance and insurance are the most promising potential market. But yes, the risk because the fact of internationalization is something which is important. Maybe some regulatory intervention can help develop a resilient supply chain.
I don't know if we can forbid people that are really data-intensive consumers of Earth observation to internalize some capabilities. I'm not sure all insurance and finance will do it. And for sure, we cannot tell them, guys, stop. You can't do that. You can buy it externally. I think some of them will increase it. Insurance, maybe. Climate-related insurance, parametric insurance, maybe. There were even at a certain moment rumors that some of them would launch their own constellations. And then I think some of them realized that the data was there. I'm not sure regulation will allow to preserve from this trend. What I think is that a lot of tools can still especially if we can do modular tools that can be embedded in the decision-making systems of these companies, there will still be place for external innovation. If we can support that, and that's why I say we anticipate that in terms of CapEx, some of us will have to invest a lot to be able to match the capabilities that these people are able to put compared to, I would say, the average downstream SME or small company. There will be an effort in terms of CapEx, in terms of investment, that we need to support. Because when you're a big insurance company and you consider that, I don't know, you want to do parametric models to model temperature or rain or certain events, they can put the sum of what we can, public service plus you will put in CapEx. So as long as we can reassure on the capability of providing an innovation that they will not have, because still they are insurance experts, not Earth observation. They cannot anticipate what we do in upstream, because most of the sensing are things that are done in a dialogue between the public sector, most of our sensing data today, at least in Europe, and you. This, and for the moment, even when we try to engage them, we always see them relying on some of you for consulting, for advice, for structuring. So maybe it will change the business, but I don't think that regulation can say, guys, please be ignorant. But they will never be on the edge of what the Earth observation can observe. This will remain, I'm convinced, in this room.
Okay, thank you. We're already over time, unfortunately. Just maybe one short last comment. What can the industry do in order to support you in the upcoming months, to support the design of future potential activity, initiative, and so on? If there is one activity that we collectively can support, what could it be?
It allows me to answer, your question allows me to answer the other question. Sorry, without my glasses, I cannot read that fast. At a moment or another, we will need to engage with your industry, and preferably in a structured manner, so through EASC. The workshops that we are doing today with new verticals, for the moment, because we do them very short, very condensed, are face-to-face with users. But very soon, and by next year, we will need to engage with you in a structured manner with industry to explain where we've seen needs, and then to be able to organize matchmakings between your community and the various communities that we will that we are exploring through working with other DGs, with DG Energy, with DG Transport.
Mark?
Yeah, just okay. We of course we'll be very happy to support you in this exercise, which is the kernel of our mission, clearly. Just one last remark, which I think is globally shared by all our members. Indeed, due to the geopolitical situation, it's clear that the defense and security domain is becoming priority. We know that space and defense are now more or less gathered into a single budget pot. We would like to ensure that at the end of the day, space budget has its own capabilities, because definitely space can help defense, but space is not defense, not only. And just to recall that at the root of GMES at that time, the idea was that Europe gets its own capabilities for monitoring the environmental issues, and to be sure that all the countries who signed the Kyoto Protocol at that time were fulfilling their obligations. And based on that, Europe, global and European industry developed a lot of capabilities in in supporting the actions for climate adaptations, which are more and more stringent and important, and we should ensure that indeed these aspects and these facets of the Earth observation capability is not put aside because of the priority for defense, which we understand fully, but unfortunately the climate is continuing to change, and we are obliged, meaning globally, to adapt. So that's also a message we wanted to pass you.
Thank you, Anas. Thank you, Mark, for this panel, which will in fact close EXPANDEO 2026. It's really promising what you just shared with us, exciting even. It really resonates with a lot of things that we shared, the discussion that we had with you, with the FIS at large, I mean, and other key stakeholders, EU SPA, yes, but ESA as well. So it's really promising to see this in the making. You can for sure count on the association in order to support the design of this and to collect as maximum as possible feedback from our member to support you in this process. I will now say a huge thank you to all the different contributors to EXPANDEO 2026.